Good evening, Sir Arthur.
Good evening.
How's the voice? Have you lost it entirely, your voice?
Yes, it's almost completely gone. Laryngitis talking too much.
There is something we used to do with Robin Day, which we could perhaps...
Yes, a glass of water or something. Or something like that.
Okay, if you could just sit quite still.
Yes.
All right.
Oh, that's much better, yes.
We're running, so whenever you're
Right. Yes, I'm ready.
Sir Arthur, before we come on to talk about the orchestra, you were telling me how your life had been saved by a puff adder.
Yes, it was a stroke of luck, actually, because I was in Dorking having lunch with an old girlfriend, Rosita, and she had a puff adder. It was a family heirloom, you know, and she was just pouring me a cup of tea, and the puff adder jumped out of the little basket, and I immediately recognised it for what it was, a deadly snake, and rushed out of the room, and moments later the whole house blew up. Poor Rosita was blown up in the air. There was no saving her, so I didn't go back. I just left that to the emergency services, and her house had been the subject of an attack by a former friend of mine, old business colleague, who had got it into his head that somehow or other that I had run away with funds which were due to him.
It must have broken down pretty badly for you to have murdered him.
Well, it's tit for tat, eye for eye, tooth for tooth, that type of thing, because he had attempted to blow me up, and in so doing only destroyed the innocent life of a Guatemalan refugee. And I take against people who blow up people who I would like to go to bed with. So I wouldn't say I murdered him, I allowed him to die.
Beneath your own hands and body?
Yes, he was beneath, I think. He started off on top. He was having some tea at Fortnum and Mason. And in those days they had those awful beaded tablecloths. And I positioned myself under the table and attacked him from below.
In an unashamed way, really?
Yes, I was very blatant about it. I think if you're strangling somebody, there's no point pretending that you're giving them a shave, you know.
Caused considerable and long-lasting mental damage to many of the people who witnessed that attack.
It was a horrifying attack. I mean, all the witnesses said that it was the most unpleasant episode they'd ever seen at Fortnum's. Because people go in there to have a bit of a seed cake and a cup of tea, and they don't expect to see live strangling.
But you became rather attached to this method of surprising business partners, didn't you?
Yes, to the extent that it became predictable, and I had to adopt another method. Yes, once I emerged from a huge vat of watercress soup.
A one-off sort of thing?
It was very much a one-off. I prefer to just lay on a trolley with nice petit four and things like that, and then just jump off the trolley onto the victim.
How did you feel when Leon Britton and co. started mimicking your personal style of...
I was furious, because Leon is a naturally witty man and a gifted athlete, and if he'd continued high hurdling, I think he could have been an Olympian. But Leon, for some reason, got attracted to imitating me, and he used to get onto trolleys and get himself pushed through restaurants for absolutely no reason other than attention-seeking, I think he was. I don't think he was much loved as a child, and this phase of his life has continued up to the present day. He's not much loved as an adult either.
Where did it all go wrong between you and him?
Well, I used to attend meetings as Leon Britton, often making sure that I arrived 10 seconds before he did, causing him trouble at the door, because once the doorman has admitted one Leon Britton, it seems a little bit implausible that another one should turn up 10 seconds later. So I caused a little bit of harmless fun for him. I think that's probably why he went to Europe, where they recognise him.
But it was through Leon Britton that you met and got to wrestle with Michael Heseltine.
Well, Heseltine is an interesting man because he's got many strings to his bow. He likes to relax with very violent physical exercise. And he employed Rudy the Giant Vacuum Cleaner, who was one of the World Wrestling Federation stars at that time, to do workouts in his barn. And they used to wrestle each other, well, late into the night, in a sort of improvised ring made of bales of hay. And I used to go along there just as a referee, really, and to fix the results, because Heseltine liked to win. And Rudy, the Giant Vacuum Cleaner, was also a man who didn't like to lose, so the fights were often rather torrid.
Now, it's said that under this, some would describe it as guidance, he developed an over-enthusiasm for use of his physical prowess at perhaps inappropriate moments.
Yes, I always remember King Faisal being hurled to the floor at Heathrow by the Heseltine Handy.
Now, you've never mentioned these incidents in public before, and it does interest me why you've maintained such a rigorous media silence for the last 10 years.
Everything in life is about appearances, and I restrict my appearances as much as I can. And this is the only appearance per se that I am making this year.
Well, yes, it's not television here, is it? And you haven't appeared on television for over 10 years.
No, this is not television. I prefer radio in many ways because the fact is that the radio is easier to look good on than television.
Is it not true that the reason you won't appear on television is because a crack pipe can't be hidden?
It can be hidden, and I am willing to own up to the errors I've made. And if there's any young people listening, for goodness sake, don't spend £1,000 a day on crack, because you can get it a lot cheaper than that in Leicester Square.
So on television, you would not be able to last without resorting to one of the tools of your addiction.
I would have to, after really 1.5 minutes to be realistic, and I think we are in the business of honesty here. After 1.5 minutes, I would have to leave the studio, unless the presenter was himself, unless he was able to inject me, which I think the viewer would object to.
Well, there was a failed experiment on a talk show when you appeared with an intravenous device which came from beneath the chair.
No, I think you're confusing that with Joan Rivers, who did come from beneath the chair, and I sat next to her. But
that's right, yes.
Joan is not a prescribed substance, she's just a pain in the arse.
Can you describe what it feels like to wake up in the morning
not
without...
Not unless you've got something there with you, because I'm reaching the end of my tether. Thank you very much, yes, it helps. Now, I tell you, the downside of this is you feel awful, but the upside is you feel terrific. And where do you buy these?
King's Cross.
No, it's all right. It's all right. Anyway, I can talk for another minute.
How did the drugs affect your writing of the Queen's speech?
Improved it a great deal.
Opium 2 helped Her Majesty to broadcast the speech, didn't it?
Well, I'm talking out of school here, but it is well known in court circles that the Queen, in particular, is fond of dancing in the nude prior to speaking engagements. The routine is she puts on some Thin Lizzy, rips her clothes off, and just throws herself onto the marble, which they have at the palace, it's part of the deal, and writhes around, and then she is showered by footmen, composes herself, takes her shot, and looks serene.
Why were you fired from the role of writing the Queen's speech?
We left by mutual agreement.
When was the last time you saw the Queen?
Last night.
What happened?
I, as a favour, gave her some, I think it was opium, it could have been Feminex.
Now, Sir Arthur, I should point out that during that last answer you held up a legally threatening note.
It's not a threat, it's just a statement of fact. That, something along the lines of, if you pursue this line of questioning, then we shall pursue you through the courts.
I see. OK, well, perhaps you could tell us about the occasion that you came to sing a song with the voice of Frank Sinatra to over 1,000 paying punters.
Well, the episode with when I borrowed his larynx, yes. Well, actually, it was a whim, really. I just thought people would like to hear Strangers of the Night sung by somebody other than Frank Sinatra, but with Frank Sinatra's voice.
And he was sleeping, but did he agree to the exit of his...
There was tacit consent. His bodyguards had no complaints.
Were they conscious at the time?
They were very, very helpful in getting the larynx out of the throat and into my briefcase. Luigi, in particular, was a charming man. And he said, well, Mr. Sinatra will never miss it. He's having a dream now. You can tell by the way his elbows keep twitching. He's having one of those exciting dreams of his homeland. So we just went off into the night, and I flew to Capri, and Gracie Fields and I sang the biggest aspidestra in the world, and closed on Strangers of the Night in a My Way medley.
Now, I have to ask you, did you not do this purely out of financial greed?
I'm more than happy to answer that question, but I would prefer to do it without the tape spinning round. So if you just stop the tape, I'll give you the answer.
Right, we've stopped the tapes.
Thank you.
And what was the answer?
What was the question?
Well, it was about money and whether you made an awful lot of money.
Yes, I made an awful lot of money out of that, yes. You can start the tape up running again now.
Even before I ask you how much money?
No, you can. Have you started it up running?
No, we haven't yet.
Good. Well, £4 million.
And now I can start it again.
You can start it running again,
Thank
yes.
you. So, it was purely then for artistic reasons?
Exactly.